Good morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock, so we'll get started. So today, we're going to talk about 80-20 analysis for your business, excuse me, and trying to avoid the roller coaster of business. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody right now and share my screen. Okay, so 80-20 analysis and avoiding the roller coaster. You guys, have you heard of the 80-20 analysis, anybody? They're going to hear it today. So what are we going to talk about? What is the 80-20 rule? And it's a surprising source. If you haven't heard about where this came from, you're going to be a little bit surprised about who actually came up with this and when. We're going to talk about the roller coaster of business and why the most real estate professionals, their business seems to be, it's a roller coaster. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. And how can we fix that? And how to use the 80-20 rule, not only in your business, although that's what we're primarily going to talk about. This works everywhere. You'll find that the 80-20 rule is all over the place. And then at the end, we'll have some questions. And this session probably will be a little bit shorter than some of the others, simply because it doesn't take as long to get through the material. But I'm hoping that you guys will have some questions, some things that we can address as we go through this. So at any time, if you need to talk, remember, just hold on your space bar and give her a go like a walkie-talkie. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Good. So what is the 80-20 rule? It was actually discovered in the 19th century. So back in the 1800s, a guy named Vilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist, discovered it, not doing facts and figures for the economy or trying to do anything for money. He found it in his garden when he looked at his pea plants in his garden. And he noticed that 80% of the peas came from 20% of the plants, and saw this over and over again and thought, well, I wonder where else this shows up. So because he's the one that discovered this originally, it's sometimes called the Pareto principle. It's also called the law of the vital few. And it states that in most instances, and this is not a 100% fact, but in most instances, you'll find that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes, right? So if we look at this in business, 80% of your profit likely comes from 20% of your clients. An example of this is if you did, say, 20 deals last year, I bet if you think really hard about it and did an honest reflection, you'll find that 3 or 4 of those clients generated a lot of the income. They did bigger deals. They were easier to deal with. They were just great clients and you had a great experience with them. So if you think back about it, again, I stand to be corrected, but I think you'll find that about 20% of your clients are the ones that really worked out the best. 80% of your problems also come from 20% of your clients, right? So everybody's got a couple of horror stories every year about clients that were just super difficult to deal with. And it's not necessarily because they're bad people. It's often just a personality clash. Events go sideways and it's just, it seems really, really difficult to make them happy. Not pointing fingers at anybody here, but you will find that 80% of your problems come from 20% of your clients, or some other combination of numbers there. And keep in mind, it's not always equal to 100%. 80-20 is the most common used ratio for this. It tends to add up to 100, but you can see this come out at 95% of your results come from 25% of your inputs, or 75% of your problems come from 45% of the inputs. So there'll be some combination that you'll be able to identify over time. Okay. Ever had the feeling that your business was like this? You're on a roller coaster and it's just terrifying. You don't know why it's going south. And you'll see on the right here, I've got this chart here. Business tends to be expansion, peak, contraction, trough, expansion, peak, contraction, trough. Most businesses are like this, right? But wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to make your business more level, right? So that it was more predictable, so you didn't have these extreme highs and extreme lows. That's what I'm hoping we can kind of lead you toward here today, okay? I know this happened in my business repeatedly, very early in my career, until we did some soul searching and decided on how we're going to build our business over time, okay? Wouldn't it be nice to take out some of the insecurity? That's one of the big things I hear from people too is, real estate is so insecure. I don't know when I'm going to get my next paycheck. I've heard some people say to me, well, I might as well be unemployed. I just did a deal and I got nothing on my plate. This comes from a good place in most people's heart, I think. You'll do a little bit of prospecting. You'll get a couple of clients that say, yeah, I want to make a move now. And because you want to do the best thing you can for them, you stop doing some things that you should have been doing, and you focus on those people entirely, right? And you find that you do very well for a little while, but after you've sold those properties, you're unemployed again. It's because you're not really focusing on the 20% of the inputs that really get you 80% of the results. You're focusing on the wrong thing. And not because you're a bad person or unintelligent, it's just nobody showed you this stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about. Steps, things you should be doing. Everything you do in your business starts with tracking and measuring everything. You got to track and measure everything, okay? And the rationale for that is if we're going to try to make some changes in our business to make sure that we're more effective, and we can really zero in on those things that are doing having the most impact on our business, providing the most income, the best experiences, the most time off, whatever they might be. If you don't know where that's coming from, then you can't make changes. So you've got to track and measure everything you do, okay? Know your metrics so that you can make improvements or changes or stop doing things in the future, right? I think that makes sense. What gets measured improves, because if I don't know the results, if I don't know what I'm trying to make changes to, it's impossible. It's like throwing darts. I'm guessing every single time. But if you track and measure everything you do, right from the beginning of your career, but from starting prospecting, track and measure your prospects. How many people did I talk to today? How many appointments did I make today? How many appointments led to contracts being signed? How many contracts signed led to deals being written? How many deals written closed? So if you track and measure everything, you'll know what you need to make improvements on. And we're going to look at a couple of different things that you can do beyond just, how many calls do I need to make to get an appointment? What marketing am I doing? What presentations can I change? You can apply these rules to everything in your business, okay? And I'm going to say, added to this, what gets measured improves. There's a second part of this that I didn't include here, but what gets reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates. So if you don't have a coach, Vanessa is happy to do coaching. I love doing coaching. Find an accountability partner somewhere in the office or outside of the office. Find somebody that you can report your results to, right? If you track it, you measure it, and then you report it back to somebody, the rate of your improvement will accelerate, okay? So how can you apply this in your prospecting? So what are you doing to get your business? Now, this is something you need to have been tracking to make changes to. So if you haven't been tracking this in the past, please start, okay? Now, I've got the standard list of items here, when we're talking about prospecting, because I think this is probably the most important area to spend your time on doing an 80-20 analysis is where did my business come from? If I don't have leads, the rest of the business can just go away because it doesn't exist without the leads. So I think the prospecting, tracking and measuring and doing an 80-20 analysis on this is probably the most important thing you can do. Now, these are the standard ones that we would do in normal times. So I don't want you to think I'm advocating that we should start door knocking today. That's not the case. But things will get better, and over time we will be able to get back to this, okay? So from the moment, if you're doing any kind of lead generation, if you're calling your sphere of influence, if you're running any internet ads, whatever it might be, if you're doing some virtual open houses, whatever you're doing now, start tracking. If every time I do this, I get this call, or every time I make this call, I get this result. Start tracking and measuring all that so that you can do this analysis going forward, okay? How many leads did you get from each method going forward? Or if you can look at last year, how many leads did I get from each method? And then if I'm doing, for example, if I've been doing open houses in a normal market where I can actually do open houses, and I've been doing them for 2 years, and I can say with certainty I've done 20 open houses in the last 2 years, and I only got 3 leads from that, then one of two things has to happen. I've got to improve my skills at open houses because the 80-20 analysis is telling me I'm not getting enough results for my time invested. Or secondly, I need to stop doing open houses and focus my efforts somewhere else. So that's really why you got to take a look at this stuff on a regular basis. And this is not something you should do once a year either, guys. I would suggest you do this every month, every quarter. Really look back and see how are things going. What do I need to make changes on? Where's my business actually coming from? Or if it's not business, is it free time? Am I looking for my business to become more systematic to allow me to have a better lifestyle? And that's really what it should be all about, is the better lifestyle. And that might be more business so I can spend more on whatever I need, or it might be the business is running smoothly and systematically so I can spend more time at home with the kids, okay? So once you've done an analysis of your lead generation, you really should take a look at your clients as well. I've shared this example before, and I'm going to share it again now. Way back in about 1998, 1999, something like that, Bill Pyle and I did an analysis of our business, and we realized that we were running around like crazy, dealing with everybody who asked. And if a lead came our way, we put our all into working with that lead in hopes of converting it. And we were carrying 20 or 25 listings at a time. It was crazy. But we weren't making the money that we should have been making. We weren't getting the time off that we should have been getting. And we just felt ragged from running all the time. So we did this exact analysis that I'm describing to you today. We went to, Bill's wife had a fantastic boardroom. We got away from the office and we went and did this analysis. And we looked at what are the clients that really resonated with us, right? They had a similar value set that we did. They respected our time. They didn't try to lowball us on our fees. They had realistic expectations in what they wanted. So we looked at our past clients and we identified which ones were the best and what made them the best. We tried to find what are the similarities between these people and why did we really enjoy working with them. What we came up with was, this is the avatar that we want this person to work with over and over and over again. We said life's too short to deal with the rest. The jerks we don't want anymore. So who are the worst clients? The ones that didn't value our time, right? The ones that didn't have any respect for what we did. The ones that always tried to nickel and dime us on our fees. The ones that expected, this level of service when we had promised this level of service. And if we didn't provide this level of service after promising this level of service, they were ticked right off. So we fired a bunch of them, right? Stopped working with them. And I'll tell you what happened was our time off doubled, our income doubled, stress level went down, and this really did work for us. And we governed our business like that for the rest of the time that we worked together. And I'm suggesting to you guys, if you do this kind of analysis on your business, you get so much freedom back. It's incredible. Don't work with jerks anymore. Life's too short. So the 80% of your problems that come from 20% of your clients, stop working with them. Okay, there are others out there. Not every lead is of equal value. Okay, not every client is of equal value. So just because you see dollar signs attached to a client, that's the wrong way to look at it in the beginning. But if you see a client that says, look, we're going to buy a $2 million property, and if it's not you, it's somebody else. As soon as they say something like that to me, that doesn't fit my mold, because I did my 80-20 analysis. I looked at what were the good experiences, what were the bad experiences. That client, that lead that said, you're going to make a lot of money off of me, that fits the second category of the bad clients in most cases, in my experience. Yours might be different, but in my experience, those were not the clients that I wanted to work with.
Hey, Doug.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just wanted to ask a quick question. It's Clint here. And if anybody else wants to jump in on this question, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Past couple of days, specifically yesterday, I was putting a couple offers in on some properties. Now, granted, they're east of us, and one house has 5 offers on it in one day. Another house has 2 offers in on it. My question is, on properties that they're getting multiple offers, I don't really see what's wrong with cold calling that neighborhood by telephone only. And if people are getting mad, like, why are you bugging me in a COVID environment? It's like, you fucking kidding? Your neighbor just had 5 offers. Do you think, people are kind of getting back out there and looking at this thing? So just curious what other people's thoughts are. I know when this thing was first starting, if you're cold calling by telephone, people were getting a little pissy that you were calling them, but it seems like maybe a little bit north to us and east to us, people are starting to relax a little more and not being so uptight about this, so I'm just curious on some feedback.
So I've got a couple of ideas, but does anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Maybe just add some value and information instead of just calling, yeah, exactly what you're doing. You're letting them know that someone is getting multiple offers, but also just updating them on the market and asking if they have any questions that they need to have answered. Because I find a lot of people are really looking for valuable information. They're curious or they're concerned or whatever. So just kind of hearing your voice and knowing that if, ands, or buts is definitely a good way in.
Yeah. So what I would add to that is I would start the conversation by saying, I know this is a weird call to be receiving today. But I've got a client that's very serious and needs to make a move, right? We made an offer on your neighbor's place, and unfortunately, we got beat out on it. Is there any reason that you couldn't sell your house to these folks? They need to make a move. If you couch it in language like that, that you're not just out there trying to make a quick buck. You've got a client that has a real need. Maybe you find someone else that has a need that they need to sell right now. And if you can put those two together, then you've done your job. So I would be cautious about just simply saying, hey, have you ever thought about selling your house? And I know that's not what you're suggesting, but I would be cautious about just cold calling for leads based on the fact that a neighbor's house sold. If you've got a real buyer that needs to make a move, then I don't see a problem with contacting the neighbors to try to help your client. And I assume that client's they've signed a buyer representation agreement. You've got an obligation now to help that client fulfill that need. So I don't see a problem with that, and I like Krista's idea of providing a little bit of extra information to them. Let them know what's going on out there. They may not know that the house down the street had 5 offers on it, right? They might see the sign out there, and their first thought might have been, "Oh, they're just trying to cash in." Let them know that things are happening out there. This is what's going on in the marketplace, and I do have a client that's serious. They need to make a move, and I'm hoping you can help me out here. So how does that sound?
Yeah, thanks, Doug and Krista. That both of what you guys said makes sense. I'm thinking strictly just trying to get listings, but doing it very, very soft, saying, hey, look, people are starting to come back out. Your neighbor sold, with 5 offers on the property. Just let you know when you're ready and when you're comfortable if you want to pursue this.
Sorry, Clint. I think I would still be cautious. We are still essential service only, right? It's still not business as normal. Yes, people are starting to relax their thoughts on this stuff, but it's still not business as normal. So I would be cautious. And you might do this for several weeks and no problems are started, but then somebody goes online. I heard it another one of the webinars that we've been watching recently, that online shaming is at an all-time high right now. So you only have your reputation here, right? So you got to protect it. If you start going out there and actively trying to build your business without couching it in that kind of cautious language, and only when it's a need for a client who's expressed an interest in a certain area and they have to make a move, I think you run the risk of damaging your reputation. It's still too early to go hardcore on that kind of stuff, I think. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's my take on it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What else can you analyze? You're doing an 80-20 analysis of your business, right? So we've talked about looking at your prospecting activities to find out what's working, what's not. We looked at, which clients are the good clients, which ones aren't. And again, not pointing fingers at them to say they're bad people, just they aren't ideal clients. And narrowing down on who are the people I really want to work with. What else can you analyze? So why not take a look at your marketing methods, right? You ever seen those late night TV ads? Again, I keep talking about when we had normal times, but that's all we have to base this conversation on. These travel ads, come to Newfoundland, visit Newfoundland, and you'd see an ad at 9 o'clock at night that said call Sarah, and it had a phone number for information. And then if you're still up late at night like me watching TV, at midnight it comes on and says call Diane. And for information on visiting Newfoundland. You guys know why they're doing that? That's so they know what time of day to run the ads. They're doing A/B testing. They're doing their own 80-20 analysis, but they've built it in. They've baked it into what they're doing. So at the very beginning, when they're doing these ads, they know by the results they get what time of day works best. Sorry, somebody's got a question in the chat. And why can't I get it to come up? There it is. Thanks, Krista. call Sarah, call Diane, whatever, so that they've got it built in. They know who's going to be, what time of day to do their ads. They're doing the 80-20 analysis up front. So look at your own marketing methods and find out which ones worked really well. If you spent $100, which would be a lot of money on a Facebook ad, and you got one response, well, that's part of the 20% or the 80% that didn't produce results. But if you do an ad for $20 and it produces 5 times the results, that's the 20% that's producing 80% of the results. Just do more of that. So you can do this in your marketing. You can look at your presentations, right? When I did this presentation, I got 2 results. When I did this version of that presentation, I got 12 results. Well, do the one that got 12 results. Your client communications. How are you communicating with your sphere? Sorry, get tongue tied. Is it in a meeting that I get the best results? Am I getting more results for the time invested when I just do calls? Or what about just doing Facebook messaging or texts or some other method of communication? Track and measure everything you do so you can see what's getting you the best results, okay? You guys remember the Matrix, Morpheus? What if I told you by doing less, you can do more? So decide what you will stop doing, okay? It's almost like magic in any business, particularly in real estate, but in any business. The less you do, the more focused you get on high impact activities, the better your business gets, right? So you really need to take a good hard look at this and stop doing a lot of things. It's the vital few that we started with in this conversation, the law of the vital few. The vital few are what's going to give you the most results, so stop doing the others, okay? Even if in the beginning you get slightly fewer results, you're going to find that your time off, the work-life balance that you regain is going to be so worth it. And then you just have to build the systems a little bit more so that you can get the business level back up to where it was. So what will you continue doing? As important as what you're going to stop, what are you going to continue doing? And is there anything you can add to the mix? Is there more that you can do in terms of, I know that this particular marketing method worked well, but if I combine that with this other prospecting method, the follow-up method perhaps, that I also know worked really well, can add that to the system to do even more. So it's, what are you going to stop doing? What are you going to start doing? And what can you add? Okay. Or what are you going to continue doing? And what can you add? Like I said, you'll find that you're working less if you get really focused and really trim out the fat of what you're doing here. You'll only work with like-minded people, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you are communicating in your natural style, I talked about this a bit yesterday, communicating in your natural style, like attracts like. Right. So when people see you speak in a certain way, they see you have certain interests, they see you have a certain value set, those people are going to be attracted to you, and you're going to have a better time of it. Right. So when I said that Bill and I decided we're not working with jerks anymore, we're only going to deal with people who have a similar value set to us, it was self-policing. People got to know who we like to work with, and we just didn't have to deal with the jerks anymore. Okay. And you'll find you're only spending time on high impact activities. Which means instead of running around like a chicken with your head cut off, chasing every single lead, chasing every single new business idea out there, you can narrow it down to a very small subset of activities and find that you get as good or better results. Okay, questions? Anybody? Anything that you thought I would talk about that I didn't?
Back to at the very beginning, you were talking about the line where you're really, really busy, and then you crash and you go up and down. Sometimes I'm like, man, I just made a couple of good sales, coast, kind of thing, which is a bad attitude, and I try not to. But for the most part, I kind of think sometimes it's like, man, I've been working my ass off for 2 months straight trying to build a few sales, and then the down period is just kicking back and trying to take 2-3 weeks off. Like, you're just exhausted.
Yeah, I totally hear where you're coming from. Part of the process of your 80-20 analysis needs to be the time I've put into this, right? The 20% of the time that I invest is going to produce 80% of the results. So you need to be taking time off on a regular basis. And Clint, you and I have had this specific conversation before. And I have this conversation with most people that come to me for coaching. They all want to work. You know, you get into the real estate business because you really want to do a good job for clients. You really want to work hard, and you want to just, you know, set the world on fire. And I understand that. But if you don't take time off to recharge, you will burn out, right? You will get to the point that you're describing, Clint. You're going to get 3 months down the road. You made some deals, and you think, I got to coast for a while. I got to relax. I got to recharge. Because 3 months ago and 2 months ago and 1 month ago, you weren't taking any days off. You didn't take a week off once in a while. You got to recharge, okay? So the 80-20 analysis that you do in your business, and how I talk about it, you know, smoothing out the ups and downs, is because you do get some lifestyle back. If you stop doing the 80% that's just not producing results, and you focus on the 20% that really gets you those results, by default, you have more time. By default, you have more time to spend on personal activities, right? Or you've recovered some time that you can duplicate that 20% over and over again. You could do that same 20% of activities over and over again to generate even better results. So you don't get that feeling overwhelmed. You don't get that feeling that I didn't get any time off. I gotta burn 3 weeks here because I'm exhausted and I gotta recharge the brain, right? So if you eliminate the crap, literally the crap that takes up so much of your time and burns you out, and only focus on high impact activities, right? There are some things that some of you probably don't look at as high impact activities, but they are important, like marketing, right? Marketing activities are something we have to do forever. We have to be constantly prospecting and adding to that via marketing, Facebook ads, bench ads, whatever it might be. Those things you can take off your plate as well. You can systemize those things and have someone else do them, right? So you're focusing on high impact activities. When you get to the point where you can farm some of that stuff out to a third party and pay them 20, 30 bucks an hour, I don't care what the number is, you're worth hundreds of dollars an hour when you're talking to a client. So stop doing that stuff. Only work on high impact activities, and then you avoid that feeling. Okay, and you'll say, I've got a good work-life balance here. I can take a couple of nights a week off. I can take 1 or 2 days in the weekend off. I can take 2 weeks every 3 or 4 months and not feel guilty about it, and not have to reset my business every time I do it. Right?
That's smart.
Krista, what was that?
That's smart.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson for most people. They want it, and most people will agree with me when they're new in the business and I coach them through this process. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then a year later, they're burned out because they didn't take their own advice. They didn't listen, and they thought, I'm going to do this. I got to put my head down and work for a year or two here and make this thing work. And the cult of hustle is so pervasive out there. I wish it would go away. Yes, you have to work hard, but you got to work smart while you're working hard. If you're spending time on low impact activities, you're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels forever, and you're going to get in that position that Clint described where I got to take some time off. And every time you do it, it's a reset. Okay. So, but if you do the 80-20 analysis on a regular basis, what's working, what's not, stop doing the stuff that's not working and chill. Do the stuff that does work over and over and over again. Hope that helps. Any other questions, comments, anything anything I should have talked about that I didn't?
I think it was great. I think for myself, I had to let go of clients that were dragging me down and sucking my energy. So if someone has a client like that, like I know it sucks letting go of a client, but when they're taking good parts of you in your energy, then you don't have that much more energy to put into maybe someone else who would be better.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much. The recording will be up in the group in a little while. I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
See ya.